Well, it seems like Bungie is going through a needed reset, as Hiroki Totoki has indicated on another earnings call after earlier this year saying there needed to be a greater accountability at the company with respect to budgets and the property as well as the leadership. And now in the wake of the layoffs, Totoki weighing in once again, walking through what he labeled a restructuring. And I walked through this in my latest video. You should definitely check it out. There's a lot to consider here. I basically called it PlayStation Resets Bungie, and that video walks through a handful of things, everything that's kind of gone on through the PlayStation acquisition, the fact that Jason Schreier from Bloomberg has weighed in with things that he knows about the extent of Bungie's autonomy as well as Marathon. And then I even sort of consider the future of Destiny, which we will likely largely discuss here in this live stream with the live audience. There will be a live show later with Kirk from What's New Video Games, where I'm going to argue that Marathon should be canceled. So I will probably largely ignore and not really go down that rabbit hole in this live stream. I want to kind of save that for the show with Kirk, and this will, I think, pretty much center around the fact that it seems PlayStation is stepping in a pretty significant way, which really lines up with predictions that I made, that they're going to want to step in and say, hey, you guys have very valuable property, you didn't treat it very well, and it's time to refocus those efforts, and I believe that's where we're headed. Now, what that means we get within Destiny 2 or the future of the franchise itself, I mean, that remains to be seen, which is largely what I believe we will end up discussing today. I will also look at some of the comments left on that video. So you're going to want to start every day here. Make sure you have a membership. That way you can start Morning Coffees, the segment that starts the day. That's members only. We end the day with members in Writer's Room, and that's kind of a behind the scenes thing. So you can watch that upload right at the start of the day and then come to the live show to be prepared to engage with everything that I'm saying. And if you watch it later and you leave a comment, you may end up being featured in this live stream, because I always like to have these interactions with you. We obviously get into very passionate debates. We go back and forth. We have discussions and disagreements about all of these types of things. And the situation with Bungie and with Destiny has been sort of a long time coming. It's something that I've been talking about quite a bit. And there was a member incentive that you guys hit. If you want to check that out, it's on the channel. My wife tried Destiny brand new as a day one, never played Destiny 2 before. She started with a fresh character to try out that new player experience. And we're going to continue to let you guys push for that if you want. If you want to keep making her push in through that game and keep going through that experience, every Friday night you can turn into a community game night. But we're talking PlayStation, we're talking Bungie, we're talking Destiny. I figure we can keep that goal for a while if you want to see her keep playing and see how it goes. There were people that wanted her to like run a raid or something and have them come in and help, and it's like, that's probably not going to happen, but we'll see if you guys really push for that. And thank you to everybody who's upgraded to Member Plus and above. We are 3 away from being at 500. You guys really have grabbed a hold of that goal, so thank you for that. If you're here right now, hit that like button, go through that ritual, make sure you watch that upload every morning so you can know what I think. And now it's time to hear what you think. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you for the support over the weekend, seeing people upgrade their memberships, seeing people renew their memberships, seeing people engage with that live stream of Madam playing Destiny. It got almost 2,000 views, and it's a member-only stream. It's not even a publicly viewable stream. We did that as a member incentive. So appreciate you guys so much for enjoying that. Kirk is in the chat. He's looking forward to talking about Marathon being canceled later. At least, well, that's what I'm arguing. So we're going to try and kind of save that. We're going to try and save that. Lono suffered more than she did. Yes, it was actually very painful for me to watch that. It was very hard. Not because I was like, oh, I wish I could play, but I was almost like, it just, you know, I couldn't grab the controller. I had to let her. Play. Yeah, we might end up doing a show or a video about the Tango situation in Hi-Fi Rush. We will see. Thank you for the answer to my question, says Ashton. That makes me think that Sony's even more disappointed in Bungie's leadership. Yeah. Ashton left a comment on the video here, and I responded to him, and I want to read his comment because I do think that a lot of people are kind of confused. He said, "Honest question: with all the layoffs, what was the 1.2 billion for talent retention for?" And they paid that 1.2 billion as an incentive for people to not quit. Commonly, in the wake of an acquisition, you lose talent. People get worried, they get nervous, or they don't like being under a new company. Maybe they don't like that company. And after what Bungie had gone through with leaving Microsoft, going under Activision, leaving Activision, I think Sony rightly was thinking, if we don't ensure that people stay, we're likely going to have some exodus almost immediately. So they paid incentives. Essentially, it was like stock incentives and stuff to be like, hey, don't quit. And those all eventually get completely paid out in like 2026. So that's not going to prevent layoffs. I do think people continue to forget that and miss that. John Lakowski, Han shot first, and so did you. The weekly goal of 500 is off to the races. Remember, upgrades to Member Plus and VIP count, and renewing your Member Plus and VIP count. So save those Member Pluses and VIPs. You guys are 3 away from 500 people. And Stonespire said he'll gift a 10 bomb when you guys hit that. So thank you, Lepkowski, for starting the week. So yeah, that money that they paid was not any sort of a levy or like a block from, oh, yeah, there can't be layoffs now. Ghostface with a VIP renewal. He says, red badge, let's go. Happy Monday, Lono in chat. Thank you so much, sir. And that bumps the line as well. I think a lot of people thought, oh, well, they paid that money. There shouldn't be any layoffs. And it's like, no, they paid that so people didn't quit. Bungie was operating the company in the red. They made bad decisions. They made bad choices. And then the money slowed down. We were talking about this morning in Morning Coffee. I said, I can't fault Pete Parsons, and I can't fault any leadership at Bungie saying, we need to plan for the future. They started to plan for the future. I think they knew that Destiny would eventually slow down, the money would slow down, the engagement would slow down. And so they were planning for the future. Sadly, their planning for the future is something that inadvertently expedited Destiny's slowdown. They knew Destiny was going to slow down, so they started planning for that. Well, in planning for that, they harmed the product. Product came late. Product came less substantive, right? You had less talent, less people working on Destiny. And that honestly is a shame, because I think what they did made sense. It's like, yeah, you were planning for the inevitable downturn of Destiny, and in the process, you sped up that downturn, right? I made the analogy this morning. It's like those movies where they go back in time to stop an explosion from happening, and then they figure out that them going back in time is what causes it. And it's like, oh, wow, we're in sort of this paradox of we created a time loop, like we're the reason it happens. It's almost like they knew the slowdown was going to happen, and then they ended up being the reason that the slowdown kind of started. Yo, XCal with the VIP renewal says, have a good day, Lono. Thank you so much, XCal, for renewing your VIP membership. So to me, that's the unfortunate reality here, is that I don't feel like they were reckless. I feel like they were too ambitious. And in the process, they ended up basically making people feel like Destiny was either not good, or Destiny was losing its magic. It was losing its priority, whatever the case may be. So, I think in general that they're going to have to recircle and refocus on one game. That's personally what I think they need to do. Since we are talking about it later, do you have any thoughts on Bungie's upcoming mobile fighting hero game, hybrids purportedly called Gummy Bears? Some of the devs are confident in it. I thought that had been reported to be canceled. I don't want to quote Astacross here. Didn't he say that was canceled in the video, or that he had heard it was canceled, or that I thought he read somewhere that it had been canceled? Maybe I'm misremembering. I thought Gummy Bears had been canceled. Yeah, I think he's kidding around, Lone Wolf. He's inviting hate by saying that. He got attacked by the Star Wars community quite a bit. Deservedly so. Bungie tried to grow too fast with too many projects, says Elevated Vibrations. Ghostface says, I do not think, though, it was going to slow down. They figured they had a thoroughbred and could keep winning while flying too close to the sun. Payback was canceled. Gummy Bears was moved to Sony PlayStation, says Street Shadow. I thought Gummy Bears was canceled before, though, long before this. Matter got canceled. Gummy Bears is the game that got moved to SIE. Okay, I thought we heard months ago. I wasn't talking about recently. I thought we had heard months ago that Gummy Bears got canceled. Okay, so Gummy Bears is the new studio spin-up. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I was like, man, I thought they canceled that. Okay, so Kirk wants to know my thoughts on it's 44 people according to Jason Schreier, and it's a MOBA fighting hero game. Listen, I think one of the reasons that Bungie got where they are right now is by plotting new courses, new territory, and being innovators, not by saying, oh, we're going to make one of those games too. It really just reminds me of Concord. It reminds me of Firewalk. Like if you're like, oh, we're going to build a MOBA hero game. Oh, okay. Like what? I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be that guy that like all games are the same. There's nothing new under the sun. But it's kind of like it's hard not to say that when companies keep saying, yeah, we're going to make one of those too. It's like, okay, great. What's the point? If we already have very successful games in that lane, are you going to crack in? I mean, haven't there been a handful of games that have tried and have not made it? I feel like every time I turned around, there was some new MOBA from a company that didn't make it. And then there's a handful that have survived and have made a ton of money and have thriving player bases. Raven left a comment on the video and says, I agree with option 3, just a fresh start and a clean house. Yep, I think that would be a good move. Paul left a comment on the video. Any sort of reset would hit burnout twice as fast when nostalgia falls apart. Destiny 2 had its swan song with Final Shape. New players don't get connected to the game, to games anymore as they're not content complete. New players would have liked the Red War, in my opinion. It was a complete experience and a good entry point into the franchise. Yeah, I actually think Red War was pretty good. I do. I thought, especially if you could play it in a way where it doesn't feel like what it felt like for a lot of us, like when we were getting reset and having things taken away. I think for some people, like that was kind of a big deal. It was like, oh wow, we're having our stuff taken away. And I think for some, that was kind of like a bit of a demotivator. I felt like there were people that were kind of irritated at the start of D2. This guy named Christopher says, good video. They need Destiny 3. The reputation of D2 is now forever tainted. Why the sequel was never in development is honestly embarrassing. 5 incubation progress, and not a single one was, hey, let's reinvest significantly into the one project that generates revenue. Embarrassing reflection of leadership. Good points all around. He also goes on to say D2 is dying, has terrible new player experience. It's not going to change with fewer resources and employees. That's why I think PlayStation's going to step in and change course on some of that, right? Parasito says, what do you think about how ambiguous and nondescript Bungie has been about the future of Destiny? They've always said and more, but nobody has seen anything for this after a year. Well, I mean, I would say, and a 5-bomb comes in from Charles Freeman, the first 5-bomb of the day, putting us on our pathway to hitting that weekly goal. Thank you so much. The weekly goal turns Friday night into community game night, and you guys hit the stretch goal last week, and you made Madam play Destiny as a brand new player, so that was a great experience. Thank you to everybody who contributed to that. Yeah, I think they've been vague like that, Paris, because if you think about it, if they were actually planning to do these spin-off projects, a spin-off PvP and a spin-off like third-person action game or whatever the heck, I think they certainly were thinking about like, oh, Destiny's, brightest days are ahead. They thought that the franchise was going to, outlive Destiny 1 and 2, but in different ways. Kirk says, it's hard not to be cynical. In theory, our game is different, could and should ring true, but for every innovative iteration like Apex or Fall Guys, we get 8 games that feel generic and uninspired. Well, and here's the real problem, Kirk. I think anytime you trend chase, you're running into a handful of problems. And another 5 from Charles Freeman takes us up to 13. This guy's doing his own member train, just a couple of 5 bombs in a row there. This is the problem you're always going to run into with trend chasing. Let's say you want to build a hero-based MOBA, like apparently Bungie is building with Gummy Bear. Okay, let's just say that's what you want to do. It has to be familiar enough for people that like that genre to come and play it. However, it has to be distinct enough to not be like, yeah, I've kind of played this game before. Like, that was the feeling that I got when I played Concord. It was like, it has to be familiar enough to appeal to like PvP arena shooters or hero shooter fans. And then it wasn't distinct enough. It was just kind of like, yeah, I feel like I've kind of played this game before. You're always going to run into this when you just trend chase, because you're attempting to grab hold of a rocket and say, hey, we have a rocket too. And people are like, okay, we'll come and check it out. And then they check it out and they're like, yeah, it's neat and all, or I like your art style and all, but like, I don't really think it's different enough. Now, if you were to come out and make a completely different interpretation of extraction shooter, battle royale, hero arena shooter, or in this case, a MOBA, it's like, well, maybe you might be able to convince people, but maybe not. Egnarts renews his Member Plus for 34 months and hits 14 on the week. Thank you for that renewal. And a $10 super chat tip says, Bungie have planned a presentation to show what they are doing next for D2. We don't know exactly what they will say, but usually when they're backed up against a wall, they do well. I mean, I'm not gonna argue with that. I think they certainly have gotten through a lot of make it or break it scenarios, but I do think you start to run out of luck, you know? Eventually, I think you run out of luck. It's like, there's only so many times I feel like you can pull that off. You know? Bungie's got to be his favorite studio. Whose favorite studio? Who are you talking about? This guy says Bungie. What? This guy says here, Airborne Pathfinder says, I found out exactly what type of company Bungie was when they allowed what happened to you to go down. Knowing that there were inside people that work with their company and who were involved, karma always wins. It's 1v1s. Indeed it does. We'll just let that comment, speak for itself. And Lido says maybe Naughty Dog should pay Bungie a visit and advise them to shelve Marathon. Oh my gosh, that's exactly right. This guy replies and says, Bungie never advised them to stop working on TLU Online. They never told them to cancel it. They told them how much the studio would need to support. Good points, but he was just joking around. Like, good points, Chris Collins. I agree with you. Everybody gets it twisted. Bungie simply advised Naughty Dog on what would be required to support a live service game, and Naughty Dog was like, we're not willing to do that. 13 months from a man, Brooklyn Breed, says, pancakes or French toast. Also, we made it to 13 months. Many more to come. That's my man right there. Pancakes or French toast? There's only one correct answer to this question, and it is both. No, I'm just kidding. If you made me choose, I would choose French toast. I would. There's just something about that texture and that crunch, man. It's just, you make them right. Oh, they're excellent. I would every time. Anyway, Concord didn't have the training or the new player onboarding in the beta, and what they did have that explained that made the game different was hidden in the how to play section, says Corey. Listen, do you think if they do a better job that, explaining how to play and how it's different, do you think that's going to be compelling? I don't think it's going to be compelling. It all comes down to the experience that you have. The correct answer is waffles. No, it's not. No, it is not. And thank you to everybody who watched that video this morning, man. A lot of likes, huge turnout, and a lot of comments. You guys have been absolutely helping us with our goal here to have that daily upload and then the live discussion. We are really trying to chart that course. And we know that it's a little bit different for some of you. And we know that, like, maybe you go to channels that don't do this and they're just uploads or they're just live. And you guys are really helping us kind of capture that vision. So thank you for that support. And all the likes on this stream right now are helping with that as well. So thank you to everybody who's doing that. French toast it is. Fire. Yeah. That's the only answer. Brooklyn Bree did leave a comment on the upload. He says they need to see changes. They paid way too much money for basically nothing so far. Other than saving Naughty Dog from a huge mistake, I agree. I actually agree with this. I said, listen, there's a lot of people saying that Sony got ripped off here, that PlayStation, got ripped off. They made a bad purchase. And it's really, really hard to argue against that. It really is. It is hard to argue against that. The only way I can argue against it is I can say we need to see the long tail benefits of Bungie's influence over live service. Because, okay, you pay $3-something billion, but you saved one of your marquee studios from an absolute disaster, launching a game, not being able to sustain or support it, and that game crashing and burning. You have to ask the question, was that worth, at least one of the $3 billion, right? Did that save you guys? I mean, how much did that save them, right? Did it save you a couple $100 million? Because people are like, well, all that money wasted on the project. Sure, but you waste a significant amount of more spinning up servers to try to support a game and trying to launch the game and market the game and do interviews and all of that, and then to have the game not work, that would have been more money lost. Right? So that's the question is, what's the long tail benefit of having Bungie say, listen, man, you guys are seeing right now, Exhibit A, why live service is so difficult. You're seeing it play out for one of the most successful live service games. Right now, on the world stage, is putting on an inadvertent lesson and clinic on the fact that you better buckle up. If you think your game's got what it takes, if you think your game has what it takes, you better buckle up. Because even we can't last for forever. Even we run out of steam. The other thing you have to consider is, somebody left a comment this morning, they feel like Bungie wants to move on from Destiny. And I'm like, you're probably right. You are probably right. I used to give this advice to streamers in my talks. I had like a whole, I had like 50-something videos on how to get into live streaming. And I said, you want to avoid gimmicks. Like, if every time somebody tips you money, you're going to splash yourself in the face with water, okay? You better want to do that for forever, because if that's what gets people to come in and watch you, you've got to scale that out, right? 3 years from now, 4 years from now, 5 years from now, somebody tips you $1 and you're getting splashed with water, you're probably going to get really stinking tired of that, okay? The same principle applies with making a live service game. It's like, you guys better really like this game and this idea, because if it's successful, this is what you're going to do for a really long time. And then it becomes the play Freebird situation that, bands get to a point where they don't want to play their greatest hits anymore, right? They get tired of it. And if this is what pays the bills, if this is the thing that you're married to, then you just got to figure it out and make it work. Bungie may not have a path forward. If they want to stay solvent, if they want to stay profitable, they quite literally might not have a choice other than to charge forward with more Destiny. Making a live service is running on a treadmill on stilts, for sure. And you better know that you got to do that, and you want to keep doing that, right? But that's just taking the view that Factions would have failed that bad. It could have turned out to be one of the best live service games ever made. No, it couldn't have, Paul. It couldn't have. Your hypothetical theory or hypothetical future for Factions or The Last of Us Online is an impossibility, because they weren't equipped to support it. It would have been a disaster. They would not have enough people or bandwidth to make that game a success. It would have floundered and failed. If you are told by a company, if you want this game to work, you got to allocate this much bandwidth, this much money, and this many employees, and you're like, yeah, we're not going to do that, but we're going to go ahead with it anyway, you are basically saying we're okay with failing. I think the probability of Factions or The Last of Us Online coming out and being successful, in spite of everything we've heard, and in spite of what Bungie told them, and in spite of what Naughty Dog was willing to do or not willing to do, I don't think that it had a high probability of success at all. They would have just hired more staff. You would need to hire more staff that are both familiar with and adept with your property as well as the live service. I just don't think so. What you're postulating is that everything would have gone amazing. You're postulating the Doctor Strange endgame scenario. There's one scenario where we win. There's one scenario, and it's like, I just don't think so. I think all of the odds were pitted against a game like that. It would have been another live service game that would have felt like, yeah, we've kind of played this game before, and if they weren't willing to support it, it would have been completely reactionary that like, oh, it's very successful, now we need to hire, and that would have been completely reactionary. Ergo, you'd have lost your momentum, and you've been in a situation like Helldivers is in right now where it lost momentum. They didn't hire because they didn't need to. They were like, we're not going to do that. We could be more financially stable by not doing that, allowing the game to actually go down in cadence of content and cadence of updates. It was outside their core competency. Yeah, I don't even think that's worth discussing. I think that's a sideshow. I think it's a complete and utter sideshow. I think they were saved a significant amount of loss because that game wasn't going to make it. Corey says Factions would not have been experimental in its established IP. It would have been a major failure. I completely agree with you. That would have been a massive failure. And it would have been a failure at a scope at which would have hurt the property that is currently really good for them, both in the TV show and future efforts with making another game, selling remasters and remakes. Halfie says, hey, Lono, sorry for the off subject, but do you think Helldivers 2 will be able to turn it around? I don't have any idea. My video got really, really good response, and exactly what I said was going to happen happened. You know? Exactly what was going to happen happened. I told people, I said, this will not turn it around. The numbers will not bounce back. They got a bigger turnout for Helldivers 2 when they did a patch than when they pushed out the new War Bond. That's all you need to know. That's all you need to know. $20 super chat from Street Shadow says, with Factions, the way Naughty Dog wanted to build the game before Bungie would have required them to shift focus to be like Bungie, which would damage their single-player projects. Naughty Dog took the advice and canceled. That's exactly what we're talking about. Like, I don't think there's a future where, or there's an alternate reality where Naughty Dog launched that Factions online game and it would have a success. I don't think there is. It would have been complete and utter disaster. DK Bager gifts a member and moves the line a little bit. Every 25, I have to give 5, and we're getting a little bit closer to the first one of the week. Thank you, DK Bager. My thoughts. This guy says Bungie has way too much greed. It's the company's downfall. Spreading and trying to do new projects was a future planning effort, not just greed. I know where this person's coming from, but you've got to assess the situation properly. I know there has been recent information that has come out that has basically indicated they were the ones that really wanted to push micros, and they were the ones that were more greedy, and it was actually not Activision. So I know what tree you're barking up. I don't think Bungie's woes, I don't think Destiny's current woes or the future of whatever they're going to work on, being in a bad spot, I don't think it's because they were greedy. I think it's because they were quite literally trying to future plan. Yo, Patrick Gifts, a member, thank you so much. They were trying to ensure that the company didn't get put into a terrible position. Because if they just kept trying to ride Destiny, eventually Destiny runs out of gas. Eventually you've got to shrink, downsize, do less, do something. You're going to run out of momentum. You're going to run out of players. You're going to run out of that steady revenue. That was bound to happen. So as low as I think of the company and some of the things that they've done, and I don't think highly of Pete Parsons, I actually can't fault him for saying, we need to do something else to prepare for the future. We need other pivots. We need other properties. We need other efforts. And they basically said, look at live service. What can we do there? You get Marathon. You get Gummy Bear. You get maybe this 3v3 spin-off Destiny PvP thing, and then this spin-off Destiny, action game or whatever they were going to do. They were basically trying to prepare for the future, and they brought the future to their doorstep. That's essentially what happened. Well, we need to have more things or more property, or we need to be doing more than just Destiny, and in doing that, they brought that that future to fruition of like, well, Destiny's going to slow down eventually. We got to be prepared. I can't fault them for that. It would have been more foolish just to be like, well, Destiny's never going to run out of steam. Let's just keep doing Destiny. A great example of damaging an IP in studio, WB, Rocksteady, and Batman. Look at what killed the Justice League and Gotham Knights. Listen, I'll actually give you both. I'll give you both. I don't think there are pieces of Kill the Justice League that I'll defend, but overall, yeah, I actually think I've just got to concede at this point that Rocksteady really hurt themselves, their reputation, and the parent company could take drastic action. Like that's a concerning situation. It is. I'll just fully concede now that they made a terrible choice. They really did. I misread that one. You know, I'm not always going to be right. I'm not going to hit every jump shot. You know, I'm not going to hit every ball that goes past me. I'm completely misjudged that game. You know, I honestly thought, I was like, they really believe in it. I think they've got good ideas. I thought the core gameplay was fun enough that they could expand upon it. And I was 100% wrong. You know, I've owned that a handful of times. You know, they made a horrible misjudgment. And I wonder if, you know, we're hearing from Jason Schreier that the feeling at Bungie around Marathon, he's like, yeah, it reminds me of Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. You have all this sunk cost fallacy. It's like, well, we've done all this. We've got to keep going. And it's like, oh my gosh. If that's why you're shipping it, listen, hear Jason Schreier's comments and then go back and read the IGN article from this year, and you read it in a completely different light. It's like, we've got to get Marathon out the door. Why? Because these people are gone. They are gone. David Hudat with 6 months of memberships. Thanks so much for renewing, jumping back in as a member plus. I think 2026, if Pete Parsons somehow survives this year, which it seems like he is going to survive, I would have assumed PlayStation and Sony would have done a sign of strength to say, we're going to put this company back on course. They'd have lopped his head off already. Maybe that's still coming. There's a potential future where PlayStation and Sony step in and Herman Hulst is like, I'm the captain now. We got to completely reset leadership, and that means Parsons has got to go. I do think, though, if Parsons survives, he's gone after 2026. Once that final amortized payout, or however the heck it works, I'm not a financial guy, however that payout works, after 2026 and they receive their final payment, these people are gone. They are going to walk off into the sunset. I'm here to tell you. That's what's going to happen. I don't think that fear is unfounded. I think that fear is quite literally people knowing what's coming. And listen, PlayStation has to get in front of that. If that's the expectation at the company, if that's the expectation of the employees, homie, you are going to hemorrhage talent for the next 2 years. These people will leave. They will try to go somewhere else. I think step one is the back office integration into SIE. I think SIE is going to be like, no. We're not about to hemorrhage talent for the next 2 years. No. We're stepping in, okay? You're our company, and what we say goes. You're not this autonomous, can do whatever you want, plucky, arrogant person that you once were. We're in charge now. That to me has got to be PlayStation's posture at this point. There's no way they're going to let this come to fruition. You're just going to shove out Marathon, have it probably, I think, do very poorly, and then what? Watch people leave the company in droves as they're either not confident in the company's future because of what the leadership has been doing and what the leadership's likely planning on doing, or you just lose talent because people don't want to work on all these other, they don't want to work on Marathon, or they might lose people just because they don't want to work on Destiny. That's, I think, the biggest dilemma for PlayStation to solve. How do you keep people at the company if they're like, listen, I don't want to work on Destiny anymore. I'm tired of working on Destiny. Von Raz says, how do you think leaving some of the main devs and other producers from Bungie will impact the continuing of the Destiny brand? Oh, the leaving. I mean, this touches on what Nathan's saying in chat. He says Destiny's in the situation because they've been making mediocre bad content and not listening to their player base. If they made amazing content, I don't think they would be in this situation. I mean, that's precisely it. That's precisely it. They started focusing on these other projects. It thinned out their talent and it harmed their cash cow. They thought they could feed their cash cow less grass and still make the same amount of beef, and it didn't work. That cow started getting lean, and people could tell. They were like, this isn't the same cadence of content. This isn't the same quality of content that we used to get. Why? They had thinned out the talent on the back end. They started feeding their cash cow less, and when it produced less, they're like, oh, whoops. Fundamentally, I think that's what happened. And with leadership leaving, that's going to also cause the issue of, well, who do we turn to now? Now, the good news is that apparently the morale at Bungie under the new leadership, I forget his name, under their new leadership, apparently there is a general positivity about, okay, this guy can take us where we need to go. I mean, this guy here says real change happens when Pete goes vroom vroom towards the sunset. I agree. I think you got to walk him out the door. This guy says the same thing. Yep. Agree. Pete's got to go. Pete's got to go. You got to walk him out the door if you want the company to believe in the game's future. Hidden Leaf Hunter says, I checked out of caring about how Destiny ended up when they admitted to making sure to not over-deliver above their set expectations in content. That GDC hurt them, I think. It really did. Once those clips started circulating about not over-delivering, under-delivering is a matter of business practice. Street Shadow with a $10 super chat. Some keep asking for past multiplayer games, factions, Killzone, etc., which I want too, but those games didn't make enough of an impact to push a business to make more. The communities were so small. I am here to tell you that nostalgia is not enough when you're entering a very saturated market. I mean that. If people are nostalgically thinking that factions, Killzone, yes, my brother in arms here who handles all of my channels and uploads and editing, Creature, he really wants a SOCOM to happen. Listen, I'm not saying it's not going to happen. I'm just saying nostalgia's not enough to carry you. You're entering into an insanely competitive, insanely saturated pool of games. I listed the games about as fast as I dadgum could in the game, and it felt like an eternity. You have Fortnite, Apex, Warzone, CSGO, Valorant, Rainbow Six Siege, The Finals, X-Defiant. You've got Concord on the way. You've got Splitgate 2 on the way. Valorant just came to console. You've got Marvel Rivals. You've got Overwatch. There are so many games that are trying to slice, their own slice of a shrinking pie. It's like every time somebody takes a chunk of that pie, you have less people to slice off. And you're like, oh, but they might come and check my game out. Yeah, maybe. People who play Fortnite day in, day out, or Apex day in, day out, or Warzone day in, day out, they're always going to go home to daddy. For the most part. Player behavior patterns and all the data seems to point to the fact that these people are going to go home. They're always going to go home. It's going to be really okay, this is what I think people don't realize. I think sometimes we forget this. You don't need players for your live service game to succeed. You need loyalists. And loyalists are far different than just players. Loyalists are the people who keep coming back. Loyalists are the people who keep spending money. You don't just need players, you need loyalists. And I think the challenge right now is, it's not just that Warzone and Apex and Fortnite have all the players, they have loyalists. And getting them to convert is incredibly difficult. Donald Davis with a $5 super chat says, Pete will remain until after Marathon launches. If Marathon fails, Pete will be blamed for the next round of layoffs and also let go. Why wouldn't he be blamed for the recent round of layoffs? Under his leadership, they got too ambitious and spread themselves too thin and operated in the red. How's that not grounds to walk him out the door? Dude admitted under his leadership that he put them where they are right now. Dan's a tastic with 35 months. Do you think Pete is ruining Bungie out of spite before he's out? Also, 35 months, longest relationship ever. And another renewal from James, 25 months. If Sony decides to cancel Marathon, would it affect Bungie's payout or not really? 2 renewals right there, and they both count. Member Plus and above now count in the member total. So thank you guys so much. And we are really, really close to that milestone. We wanted 500 people at Member Plus and above. And Stonespire said he would gift a 10 bomb when we hit it. And I checked it this morning. We were 3 away. 3 away. You guys are absolutely crushing that goal. Oh, we've dipped a little bit. Some people need to maybe re-up. We're now 6 away. Sometimes when people need to re-up, they fall out. So that don't freak out. That's normal. Zubair says tangential, but are people still marrying themselves to games? I see no evidence. Oh, I'm sorry. I have no evidence for this, but I feel like more and more of us are becoming casual and not willing to commit to games like that. I'll never have 6,500 hours in another game. Okay. I don't know if you'll never have 6,500 hours in another game, Zubair. You're saying that it's unlikely that you ever do. There still could be a game in the future that does that, and it pulls you down into the rabbit hole and you can't get out. And a 5 bomb from Danzatastic rounds us out nicely at 25, the first 25 of the week, and I now owe you guys 5 members. You basically need to average 100 members a day to hit the weekly goal, and you are well on your way. We've only been streaming for 40 minutes. Y'all are crushing it. 200 likes, 25 members. What a great start to the week. And my man Donnie jumps in. All right, seasonal question of, hey, Lono, can we talk about how great Diablo is? Listen, Donnie. They actually seem to be putting the game on a better trajectory. They do. They do. That doesn't excuse your behavior in the past when you were playing the game and it was bad and you shouldn't have been playing the game. So you have no excuse. You have no excuse, Donald. Anyways, so Zubair, back to what you were saying. I wonder if this is another data point that would complement what you're saying. Nobody wants to go through a second marriage, right? Once you've done it once, you know, the analogy works really well here. Once you planned a wedding and you did all the stuff and spent all the money, you know, and you were married for X number of years and now you're not married and you're facing down the barrel of another marriage, you're like, I don't know if I want to do that again. DK Baker with the Agents of Chaos pushes us past 25 and on our way to the next goal of 50. Thank you so much, DK Baker. In a similar vein, the analogy that I'm drawing here is if you spent X number of years married to World of Warcraft, Destiny, you know, whatever, I wonder if that lowers the likelihood of you ever doing it again, of you ever finding a game that does that to you. It pulls you in, it draws you in, and you just can't escape it. I wonder if that's what's going on. Are we talking a lot of the times to disaffected live service people? They're like, I don't want another forever game. I don't want it. Like, I look at the comments and I commonly hear people leaving a comment that there's a backstory behind their comment, right? There's a backstory of I'm not doing this again. I don't want to do this again. I don't want to be married. I have people all the time leave a comment. They're like, I don't want a game to be a job ever again. Or I don't want a game to take over my life ever again. I mean, Jason Schreier pretty much said it on the Friends Per Second podcast. He drifted from Destiny when he had a kid and life just didn't let him play like he used to. And I've got to think, I would have done the same thing. If I would have done the same thing if I wasn't a content creator back in the day when I had my kiddos, if I would have had a traditional job, I wouldn't have played Destiny the way that I did. I wouldn't have been able to. Genuine question, do you miss it at all? I mean, I think I miss the simplicity of covering one game. I certainly miss the way that the gunplay feels. You know, I've not touched the game in over 3 years. And I certainly can see why it's fun. I don't miss, like, everything else that came along with it. Nightfire says, I was married to WoW. I left it, remarried Final Fantasy, Monster Hunter, and Warframe. So I think it can happen. But the key is those games is they don't feel like jobs. Mike Quad jumps back in on a Member Plus. Member Plus renewals, VIP renewals, they count towards the goal. So be sure that you guys are celebrating those in the chat. Sethian says, I don't want another Forever game. I just want Destiny to keep going. This is why part of me thinks a Destiny 3 has a better shot. Let's go back and really examine why they didn't want to do a Destiny 3. Right? They essentially said that their audience was getting older and they needed something that appealed to the younger audience. Okay, fine. Let me ask you something. If you did a Destiny 3 and your audience rallied around it, supported it, bought it, played it, and continued to play the game, is that necessarily a problem? J-Dog with a VIP renewal, thank you so much. Bumps the line to 28. Welcome back. J-Dog says, Quiplash Champs, small but exclusive group. That's right. Community game night on Friday night after Madam was done with Destiny. We played some Quiplash Jackbox. This week, I think we'll do some Fortnite. I think that'll be community game night. If y'all want to play some Fortnite together, there's some cool new things that they're adding. Younger players have been exposed to forever games from day one. Minecraft, GTA, Fortnite. Right, like that too, Paul. Like, why are they convinced that younger players wouldn't jump into a brand new Destiny? Is it because it would be called Destiny 3? And would people feel like, well, I'm not jumping into the third game. I didn't play the first two. Does that add credence to the fact that maybe they would have to call it something else, like Destiny Universe? I honestly wonder if that's the case. It's like, well, you wouldn't call it Destiny 3. You'd have to call it like Destiny Universe. So that way people know it's a reset of sorts. You don't have to play the first two to come play. I wonder if the longer a game has been out and the more you add those numbers, do you make your game less marketable because people are like, well, I haven't played the first two, so I'm going to be kind of checked out on this. Automatically, they just mentally check out. They're like, oh yeah, that's the third game. I don't care. Infinite says, I don't think I've ever played a game that felt more like a chore than Destiny. I only stuck with it because running raids was fun. I had to do homework to get the good stuff and feel rewarded. Over years, just call it Destiny, says Neffitz. Whatever they don't call it. Oh, yeah, don't call it Destiny Infinite. That's correct. I wouldn't call it Destiny Infinite. Option 2 is not an option for me, says Brown Waffles. I feel like option 2 has been in play for years with Destiny 2. I personally want a Destiny 3. You know, I'm going to say same on D3. I'm going to say same. I would like a Destiny 3. This guy says, I'll just say Payback would be more successful to me than Marathon. They should absolutely think hard and quickly about wasting resources on it. Exactly. Like, you have a way better shot. You have a way better shot with something spun off from Destiny or another Destiny or resetting Destiny 2 or a remake of Destiny 1. Those all have a better shot than Marathon in my mind. I'm going to be arguing that in about an hour. I'm going to do a second show with Kirk. I'm going to argue that they should cancel Marathon. Dan's Atastic with a $5 super chat tip says, at what point do they drop support for last gen? It's holding the game back, right? I wonder how much revenue they generate from last gen. Well, I'm here to tell you, I bet you a lot of their players are still on the PS4. PS4 has gotten good migration for halfway through the gen, but look at the reports about how many people are still engaging on PS4, and that's why Call of Duty's landing there again. Listen, if Call of Duty's going to keep landing on the PlayStation 4 for the foreseeable future, this is always a difficulty, right? Like, how do you get people to move from what's comfortable, easy, familiar, and cheaper? How do you get people to move? Now, GTA 6 is likely going to be tectonic with respect to getting people to move. Because they're going to be like, well, I want to play that game. I'm not staying back here. Sony would never cancel. They're not a broken promise company. What do you mean? They did cancel. Or they allowed their studio to cancel. The Last of Us Factions was announced. They stood main stage with Jeff Keighley and announced it, and they've canceled it. So, no, that's not true. PlayStation has no problem canceling games, and they've proven that they'll let the studio cancel a game even if it's been announced. We spent so long watching D2 devs try to recapture the magic of D1. I don't know how much people want to see that repeat itself for a D3. Nostalgia has been spent at this point. Do you want to know why I want to see a proper Destiny 3, a proper, next-gen only Destiny 3? Do you want to know why I want to see that? I want to see it because they've never had a good launch. That's why. I want to see a proper, well-built, well-prepared, learn from all their mistakes launch of a Destiny game. We've never gotten that. We haven't. Destiny 1, disaster. They had already delayed it a year. That thing was held together by duct tape. Destiny 2, disastrous launch. Just completely not ready. Didn't capture what players wanted. Terrible launch. Both of those games needed their DLC a year later to kind of save the game. Like, Vault of Glass bought them like a stay of execution because it was creative and mysterious and very cool. But it just bought them a stay of execution. We have never seen a great, brand new, fresh launch Destiny. We just haven't ever seen it. 50-50, D3 has a terrible launch. Oh, you think it could still have a terrible launch? I would love to see them take everything they've learned and just spend 4 or 5 years building a proper game. The Last of Us was never announced. What do you mean? Yes, it was. The Last of Us Factions was announced. They quite literally stood on stage with Jeff Keighley and showed the artwork and said it was coming. It was announced. What are you talking about? They quite literally stood there and announced it and showed the concept art. And then they canceled it the next, like a year later or a year and a half later, however long it was in between when they did that. Marathon doesn't need to be a live service. How do you not do PvPvE extraction hero shooter and not do live service? Name a single game with online first content that had a good launch. Do you think the online content is why those games had poor launches, Parasito? I wanted to include a message for my, sorry for my hiatus. My mom died. I closed her estate. I moved from Seattle to South Carolina, purchased a home fully in cash, and got a new job. Yo, you have been riding a roller coaster, Mike. I'm glad you're here. I'm sorry you went through that. I am. But it sounds like you've had resolve and strength through it all. That's admirable, dude. Keep going. That's tough. But it sounds like things are looking up for you. I don't think the online component is why D1 was bad, Paris. Come on. You and I both know D1 was the way that it was because there was a creative dissonance at the company. Joseph Staten had his supercut. It was rejected. They broke the game up in pieces, had little teams trying to cobble the game together, launched the game because Activision said you can't delay it anymore. That's why Destiny 1 launched in the state that it launched. Destiny 1 didn't launch in the state that it launched because of the online component. I think every single launch is penny pinched somewhere. Either they skimp on the devs, creatives, or they cheap out on servers and the players can't get in. But that's not why D1... No. I'm not talking about launch day one queues. I'm talking about the quality of Destiny 1 at launch was bad. It was bad, Paris. The quality of Destiny 2 at launch was bad. It wasn't because the servers... The games weren't ready. The games weren't ready. Kirk says, where in South Carolina? We should grab a beverage. Hey, Kirk's there. I mean, kind of a big state. Could be anywhere. But you guys could, see if you're not in the same vicinity. Low. No. Yeah. That's right. Yeah, I don't agree with that at all. I don't agree that the online component is why D1 and D2 vanilla launches were so bad. I do not agree with that. There's evidence. There's just so much evidence to the contrary. I genuinely think Genshin has a better friendly live service model than Destiny 2. I could explain why, but people will give me a lot of crap. I mean, I might be the first person in line to give you crap. I think their monetization system is horrendous. I think it's scummy. I think having a pity system that creates immediate sunk cost fallacy that when someone spends money, if they just spend a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more, their odds of getting the item that they're going for increases. I think that's an absolutely horrendous and terrible way to do monetization. People can tell me they play for free. People can tell me they don't spend money. I don't care. I had the same attitude about Diablo Immortal. Well, you can play Diablo Immortal completely free and not spend any money. I don't care. Their monetization and their setup and their sucker punching the customer and hiding things from the customer. No, not supporting games like that. Absolutely not. You know who gives me grief about my takes on Genshin? Genshin players. I've never seen a non-Genshin player take up for the game and be like, actually, you're wrong about the monetization. It's not that bad. I mean, if you really look at it objectively, the only people who defend that game are the people that are locked in a cage with it. I've never had anybody defend that game that doesn't make it immediately apparent, oh yeah, you play the game a lot, don't you? The same thing happened with Diablo Immortal. People defended it and it was like, you're locked in the cage, aren't you? You can't get out. I got it. It's fine. That's fine. But no. I don't think you should have monetization set up to basically promote more monetization. Oh, you didn't get the thing that you wanted. That's a shame. I mean, we set the game up in order to do that so that you spend more money, but have no fear. Oh, you have the pity system. Keep spending. Get out of here with that. That's not somebody buying something. Oh, a skin. I can see the skin. I can see what it looks like, and I buy it. Value transmission. Informed customer. All things that I celebrate. You know? Member Plus renewal from Elevated Vibrations. Destiny's over. It was magical for whoever was there. Just like the glory days of Halo 2. Thank you for that renewal. Bumping the line to 29 members on the day. Thank you very much, sir. Whoa. I play Hoyo games. I haven't played Genshin in a year, but I defend it as a free-to-play player. I think I respect a free-to-play player's defense more than somebody who's going to try to defend their monetization. I absolutely agree, man. Monetizing in Genshin sucks, but I played for 4 years. Yes, I agree with you. There are simply a few things that I think Genshin does somewhat better. Okay, I mean, I think that's fair. It sounds like your position is nuanced. I don't really want to sit here and debate the monetization of Genshin with you. That's not really on topic. So I'm not going to. I don't really care if they get a couple of things right. They have fundamental things and foundational things that I think are bad. And so I wouldn't give a whole lot of credence to your argument, other than being like, hey, I appreciate that you're thoughtful, but I would say, yeah, I'm not compelled because of the other things. So, on the subject of Bungie and on the subject of Destiny, we also learned that they were the ones really pushing for monetization. There were recent, revelations that allow me to share a revelation from my time here. It was revealed that Activision was holding them back on some of the monetization. You heard that right. Activision was like, y'all are wanting to go a little too crazy with the monetization. You need to settle down. Like, that to me was a little surprising, It was like, oh, okay. You know why it's funny? Is it actually corroborates something that we already knew. We already knew that the monetization was their idea and not Activision's. Joker Quinn gifts a member and he sets it up 30 out of 50. 50's the next milestone where I have to gift. Joker Quinn's trying to set up the 20 bomb dunker. We'll see if anybody takes a bait. We had some monster, and I mean monster gifters last year. As you guys are tuning in, man, thank you so much for being here. I really mean that. I know a lot of you are probably excited to see Bungie and Destiny in the flow of content more lately. Hey, you know, I think it's relevant. I think it's worth talking about. I think my opinion is obviously unique and informed by my experiences and my time with the game, my time as a content creator centered around the game. So I do this type of content every day. I try to talk about a variety of games, a variety of gaming issues. So if you like this content, man, do me a quick favor. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel, hit the bell button, and hit the like button. I know a lot of you guys missed the show we used to do. Well, guess what? I'm going to take you on a trip down memory lane right now. We're going to be doing this every day now for roughly the last hour to half an hour of the show. Q&A is back, and you can use the command if you're a member. You just type !question and then put a space and then put your question, right? You don't need to put a dot or anything like that. Just !question, then a space, then submit your question. I have a pop-up on the screen right here. This is a great time to become a member. This is a great time to gift some members. And don't forget, Member Plus is the one you want to pick. If you pick a brand new membership, we are going for a goal there and an incentive there to do extra content for you, IRL streams on the weekend. Doesn't surprise me at all. I remember the first time Luke Smith got a ton of flack for saying he wanted to sell skins and emotes. Destiny creates serious whales. In 10 years, I can proudly say I never bought a Destiny microtransactions as PL, or ever will. Only interested in content, the playable stuff. I mean, I know for a fact there were a lot of people that completely avoided the microtransactions in Destiny. I know for a fact they did. They were like, no. You know, I'm not buying anything. I only want the content, or I only want the DLCs or the seasons or what have you, you know. And I actually kind of respect that. I do. People that kind of dig in and say, I'm not going to play. I'm not going to pay for an emote or a ghost projection or, you know, a sparrow. Like, I think some of the things that they added were completely legitimate. They were legitimate. They were fine. I don't have any issue with it. But I definitely thought it was interesting that they were the ones pushing for it and not Activision. How many of you never spent any money on a microtransaction? And what did you spend money on? I mean, obviously you were having to buy something. Were you buying the premium season pass? Were you buying DLC? There's no way you were playing at that great length of time and quite literally never spent a single dime. You had to buy something. What were you buying? Just the DLCs? Were you not even buying the premium track on the passes? If you weren't even buying the premium track, I mean, that's impressive, because there was some really dope stuff on those premium tracks. I mean, at least I thought so. I thought they did a very, very good job with how they set things up. I've always said that they were one of the best microtransactions, one of the best, you know, their philosophy, treatment, and setup of the microtransactions. I always said it was one of the best. I did. To this day, I still think, even though they were one of the ones that really pushed for it and it wasn't Activision, while that is interesting, it doesn't change my opinion. I still think that they set up their micros in a good way. They did. I felt like it was good and respectful to the player. I mean, obviously they wanted to do more, and thankfully they didn't, but, you know. All right, let's take some of these questions now. We got one here from Delta Boss 429. Destiny aside, what kind of game would you like to see Bungie make with their experience making Destiny? I mean, I gotta tell you, I want them making a looter shooter, brother. That's what I want to see them making. I've said for a very, very long time that somebody's going to make the next best looter shooter. I think it's them. I think they're the ones that can do it. You know? I think they're the ones that can do it. I think they're one of the ones that can say, hey, we've done this more than anybody. Who's more qualified to take a crack at it and to do it right? It's them. You know? This guy says, make a new Destiny game. Focus on the collapse of the Iron Lords. That's a great idea. New experience for the player. A new player experience is awful, but as a player who's been in since the beginning, the experience is awesome. A huge divide there. That's a huge divide, you know? And there's Krabby Patty says, dumping old gen is imperative. It's literally the reason so much content had to be vaulted. A great point about old gen. That's actually a really, really great point. Like, what if they built the next Destiny and they said, we're going to call it Destiny Universe, and they gave you everything. They gave you all the planets back. They gave you all that content back, and that was quite literally just like the first 20% of the game. You ditch old gen, you might be able to do that. I don't know if it's the engine, but certainly I think they could. Try. You could try. Citizen JV says, do you think Marathon should go back to its original roots of being a single-player game rather than extraction hero shooter? Listen, I'm here to tell you that the only pivot they should do with Marathon is pivot to canceling it. Right? Pivots to canceling it. And I'll tell you why. They've already pivoted once. Another pivot wouldn't help. Oh, well, we pivoted from what we were doing. It's still going to be that, but we're going to go with a selectable cast of heroes instead. That sounds like the first... Well, no. That's like the second or third red flag of what I would call development hell. Red flag number 1 is you switch directors. Red flag number 2 is you change direction. Prior to those red flags, there's a red flag of they held a summit for people to play it and nobody was really interested, nobody really liked it. That seemingly prompted the change in direction and the change of a director. Yeah, red flag number 3 or 4, wherever the frick we are in the count now, internally Bungie doesn't feel great about it, and it might not even make its deadline. The last red flag that's the size of a bus is that Jason Schreier says it reminds him of Kill the Justice League. Okay, well, dude, just cancel it at this point. What are we even talking about? What are we doing here? How many more, signs do you need telling you to get off? Just get off, exit, take the next exit. I'm arguing that with Kirk in about 50 minutes. Bungie have had Tarkov streamers playing it recently. Well, hope so. I mean, but again, you think you're going to get those people to come play? I mean, that's a fool's errand in and of itself. So you're going to build a game and try to appeal to an existing player base? Okay, good luck. Borderlands 4 will sell millions? What are you saying? I don't know. That might be a video I end up doing this week, dude. I'm actually, I don't know, man. Randy Pitchford is, he is certainly helping the show I did with Mike on Friday, asking, like, is this the end? Because he's out here at war over this stupid movie. Just embrace that it sucks and just turn it into a meme. Lean into the meme. If there's one brand, if there's one video game, if there's one company that can lean into the fact that your movie sucks, it's Borderlands. Nobody else would survive this. It would be incredibly damaging. Lean into it. You guys made a stinker. Blocking and attacking people? Good Lord. Okay. What an like, I'm telling you what, if there were people in a position to vote him out, it's time to vote him out. It's like, you're going to damage the brand. You're going to damage the future of this company, this franchise, out here acting like a buffoon. What are you doing, man? Oh, they talk about Jedi Survivor Last Gen on Digital Foundry. I'm curious what their take is, since they said it was like the worst port of that year on PC. So I'd be interested to see. Danzatastic leaves submits a question here. Says, why is Telesto the besto? Okay, trolley question. My first question I asked you on Purple. First question here. Booyah. Is that really the first question that you asked me? You know what's funny? It really was. It really was just such a great little weapon. And it was so clearly inspired by, the Needler. I actually loved that gun, What they should immediately have done is instantly pivot to worst movie of the year. Right? Yeah, embrace it how Ryan, embraces Green Lantern. Exactly. Like, you were delivered a very unique opportunity. Very unique opportunity to capitalize on a bad thing. And they're just not going to. Last gen Xbox store PC. Oh wow, they're removing entire segments of the structure in the Star Wars game. Yeah, my Star Wars last gen cash grab video actually landed better than I thought. It started out really, it struggled. I think that video is going to age very, very well. I think we're going to look like, hey, I tried to warn y'all, and as more companies cover it, I hope that video rises in relevancy, because I really hope people know that you should not at all be buying anything Star Wars Jedi Survivor because of the way that they have treated that property. Send a loud and clear message to them and to Disney. They can frick all the way off with the way they're treating Star Wars. So, I hope it's a flop. I hope it comes to last gen and flops and people demand refunds and it's bad. So that the developers can turn around and tell Disney, like, we told you this was a bad idea, right? You're just going to keep damaging your property, Disney, until you don't have any anymore? Anyway. Lancelot submits a question and says, as a person who has a below Madam level experience in Destiny, is it worth getting into the game right now? No, it's not. If you watch my upload this morning, I pulled from an article about how most new people are bouncing off of the game. They are simply bouncing off of the game. It is not built for you to come in and have a good time. It isn't. It's not built for you to come in and have a good time. It's built for you to come in and play some more and play some more and play some more and play some more. It doesn't set you up for a good time. I'm here to tell you. So I would avoid it entirely. I mean, I talked about it in my video. Whoever thought restructuring the open to be the opening from D1, I have to question the wisdom of that. It was cool for me. It wasn't cool for my wife. It was like, you guys really think that the opening of Destiny 1 stands the test of time? You made it 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago, because it was developed and built prior to the game launching 10 years ago. You really think this is that good? I'm telling you, there needs to be a documentary about that company, and the title of the documentary would be called High on Their Own Hubris. They are just huffing on their own hubris sometimes. It's like, why did you think this was good enough to repackage as the beginning of the game? It's nostalgic for me, but I'm not starting fresh with the game. At least not right now, wink, wink. But for real, it was nostalgic for me to sit and watch her play, but for a brand new player, it's like, who cares about any of this? Who cares? What they should have done is they should have gone from that actually, I think, quite good cinematic that explains what Guardians are and what their role in the universe is, and then jumpstart the character, boom, all of a sudden you're in content, and you're like, oh, you're in the middle of the Red War, or I don't know, something. Really what they needed to do, and I said this the other day, and I don't know if this is like a 900 IQ idea or a developmental disaster, but this is what I said. I said, why not do a story so far that you play through? So why not have her start out there on that car yard and get woken up, right? And then you go in, and then it fades to black, and then it shows a series of cutscenes, and then it fades back in, and now you're further into the Destiny 1 experience, and you play a strike or you play half of a mission where, for us, obviously it would be nostalgic, but for them, you're setting up the trajectory and the story, and you have them experience something from Destiny 1. Guns, weapons, grenades, supers, everything. And then once they get to a certain point, you fade to black. And then you do more time skipping and more storytelling. And then you have them come back in. Good gracious, what they could do. They could have people like momentarily experiencing strikes and raids and moments and locations that are like iconic from Destiny's history. And do you know what this process would do? Once completed, they would land in your game as it exists now, and done correctly, they might have this strange, weird, subversive attachment to your game because they just experienced 9 years of storytelling, lore building, and world building, and they've experienced in a matter of, I don't know, if you set this up right, make it last like an hour. If you do that, all of a sudden you have somebody in your game who understands it, because playing through all of that would feel like a tutorial at some level. They would understand how far the game has come, how much has changed, how much stronger they are now. That's how you get somebody into your dadgum game. You make me play the opening of D1, and now I'm on NPC fetch 'em. Like, oh yeah, talk to this guy and go do this, and talk to this person and go do that. Get the frick out of here with that. That's not going to onboard anybody into your game. Maybe I could have given you all these frickin' ideas a couple of years ago, but, you know, we all know what happened. But I think that's a far better way of getting people into your game. It's an experiential story so far. The minute companies can capture that, if you do that, listen to me. This applies to every game. If you can come up with this handcrafted, really well built story so far experience, you know, and it can't feel like an on the rails carnival ride. I mean, it needs to be an experiential way to go through it all. By the time they get through that, they're either in or they're out. And I think you increase the likelihood of them being in if you do this. What they're doing now, it's basically like, hey, how you doing? So this is the deep end of the ocean, and here's a surfboard and a flashlight. They just throw you in the water, and they're like, swim to shore, and then they leave, and you're like, what? Like, it's just an ocean of content, and you have no bearings. You don't know where to go. You don't know what you're supposed to do. You don't know why you're doing what you're doing, or what the importance is of leveling or getting gear or this or that or the third. You're just like, okay, I guess I'm in this game for whatever the heck reason. You just outlined the beginning of the Destiny universe narrative. Yeah, there you go. You want people to play Destiny Universe or Destiny 3 or whatever the heck you call it. That's how you do it. It's such a complicated game. On the ride, it was just one more mechanic at a time over the year. For someone new at year 10, you're coming in with 100 mechanics. Good luck. And a story so far experience that lasts about an hour, Zuby, they could get acclimated to that. You would literally have missions and sequences and setups to quite literally teach you about some of these mechanics and how they've changed over the years and how they've evolved. Madam was doing finishers. I had completely forgotten about finishers. I was like, what did you just do? Boom, and like kick somebody in the face, you know? I played through the new light campaign and didn't find an issue with it. You're doing missions just like you do in the main game. B41 is 0. Homie, come on, man. Come on, man. How long have you been in the game, though? You have so much ground level understanding. Unfortunately, that 1 hour story would take about a year to create. Well, do you want new players or not? You know? Do you want new players or not? That's what my response is. Next question from Saint Nil. Do you think with the new Tango GameWorks that other closed studios will be able to do the same? Certainly hope so. You want to know what I hope happens? I hope a lot of these companies do what... Remember what Bungie did with Activision? I hope a bunch of these companies figure out how to do that. I mean it. I don't want any of these studios under Microsoft's ownership. I can't stand Microsoft's presence in the gaming world. They're terrible. Their contract policies are awful. I think all these studios, what I hope happens is just mass talent exodus, and then they end up somewhere else. That's what I hope. Get on the... Listen, if you are a studio owned by Microsoft right now, get on the phone to 343 and ask them how it's been. You know? Ask them how it's gone. You know, that's the icon of Xbox, by the way. That's Master Chief. Look how they've treated it. TV show, crap, canceled. The way they've treated that property and the way they've treated that developer, get out of here. I want all those companies to be gone. Just get out. If Tango, you know, goes through this and it's good for them, and Hi-Fi Rush endures as a piece of property, and they're able to continue it on, good. I hope that's a blueprint for everybody else to get the frick out of there. Get out. Microsoft will only learn when it hurts their bottom line. Once they start losing money, they might consider that their corporate policies are the problem. I mean, you're going to really have to ring their bell, because they have so much property they can make money from. They'll just keep shrinking. They'll just keep downsizing and closing studios. And they'll just ride off of King Mobile and Call of Duty and Minecraft. Jez's new light experience with his wife was very enlightening. I didn't see that. I mean, I did that. Madam literally played Friday night. She just played through the opening. And I was like, this is just stupid. It does not acclimate anybody to the game. It's this self-indulgent, nostalgic nonsense. They are huffing on their own hubris. They think that opening is great. Get out of here. You've been dead for a long time. Just shut up. No one cares about that anymore. You could do that opening and that intro in the car yard, but then skip everything else and do what I said. Get them in the game. Get them learning the systems. They need to learn how to do a melee and a grenade. Yeah, they do. But have them doing it in a mission that's set up to teach them about more mechanics than that. For crying out loud, it was dumb. Again, it feels so self-indulgent. It's like they think it's great and they think it's nostalgic, so it ends up in the game. Yo, my man Ginger Prime with almost 3 entire years says, "Boom City, welcome back, Ginger." And that moves the line to 31. Thank you, sir. Was it weird seeing all the different UIs and menus? I know I got lost coming back. No, I don't think so. I mean, I think it's still the same basic pieces and parts, right? It's the same basic stuff. It just looks a little different. It didn't really throw me off. So, guys, take a quick second and smash that like button. Let's get to 300 likes. Huge turnout for the day. We're doing Q&A right now. That's a great reason to gift some members and become a member. Help us get closer to the goal. Every 25, I give 5 members as well. So you might get a membership from me. If you're wanting to pay for your own membership, we do have a goal right now for Member Plus and above. So pick that Member Plus tier if you decide to either upgrade or pick up your own membership. And another question from the generic Eric. Do you feel the market is getting oversaturated with games as a service games in general? Yes. This poses a significant problem. And I've said this for a while with PlayStation. When they said they wanted 12 live service games by 2026, do you guys remember what I said? I said, cut that number in half. What are you guys doing? What are y'all doing? I remember I was like, they're going to have to cut that number in half. Do you remember how much flack I got? I had ponies, raging at me on Twitter and getting in my comments being like, you're out here, hating. And I was told I was lying too when they had trimmed the number. Remember when they trimmed the number? And I was like, yeah, you better trim the number. You're not launching 12 live service games over the course of 3 years. Are you drunk? How are you even going to do that and have them even conceivably do well or stand a chance? What are you doing? I'm telling you right now, the live service train had everybody thinking it was payday. They had everybody thinking it was Payday. And I think they're learning that it takes more than money, and it takes more than, oh, we're going to build a game like that too. It takes way more than that. I think Helldivers 2 is proof that you have no idea what's going to take off and what's not. And buddy, if you're building live service games, you better be ready. It is Payday? No, it's not. Not for most live service games. It's not Payday. Losing money. Gonna lose money. Good onboarding is how you inject new blood. Yo, thank you, Danaheim, for a 2-spot, man. $2 super chat. This man went crazy last week. If you guys got a gifted member from Danaheim, you make sure and say thank you. That guy went crazy the other day. Nosy Narwhal says, since we're talking about live service games, I don't think any has been more important to Sony than the collection of Hoyoverse titles. Do you think there could be a future acquisition? I mean, I've not looked into that enough to have a strong opinion on it. I mean, I would think that, PlayStation is going to make their purchases very like surgical strikes, like buying up an IP. I actually think they're more interested in IP than they are in studios. And if they buy studios, I think they like them when they're smaller. So I don't know. I would imagine Hoyoverse would require a fairly significant check. Helldivers is at number 4. Not for PlayStation. It's not. It's at number 4 for last week. Yeah, who cares? It already fell. What difference does it make? Like, I don't think people understand my commentary on Helldivers. Like, I don't think Helldivers is in danger. They made more money than they needed, and they could easily fund their next project, or they could fund like a big 2.0 moment for the game. Them being in number 4 last week, who cares? During a big drought when nothing else was going on, they spiked up for their patch and then immediately came back down. You know what's funny? They got a bigger player spike from the patch than they did from the war bond. If that doesn't tell you what you need to know, then I don't know what does. Helldivers 2 got a bigger player spike from their patch than the war bond. Do you ever think that maybe, just maybe, I know what I'm talking about? I told you guys. I said, listen to me now. This game, everybody's dying for them to stop nerfing and start embracing chaos and fun. And what made everybody came back? What made everybody come back to the game? They had one day of like, let's take a peek. It was a patch. It was quite literally a patch. Not the war bond. Not the new content. It was a patch. Gee, I wonder what the primary reason people stopped playing is. Gee, I wonder what would be more compelling to bring people back. It's not a war bond. It's not content. It's like I said in my video that got me all that hate. This update isn't enough because it's not answering the question. It isn't. The question is not, do they want more content? The question is, why did they stop playing? Nobody stopped playing Helldivers because there was like a lack of content and war bonds. You could argue there was too much. People stopped playing because of nerfs. But they didn't nerf that much, and they made these things stronger, and these things are actually still viable, and they're actually not that bad. Be quiet. Nobody cares about that. Nobody cares. When a player stops playing because something got nerfed, you will not argue them back into the player funnel with a chart or a percentage or a testing video. You've lost them. You will not argue them back into the game with, well, the stuff's actually still kind of viable, or this is actually still kind of strong. Okay. All right. Just start putting out videos then. Just argue them all back into the game, just get the Ministry of Truth to put out some videos and argue people back into playing, because they're too stupid to know. They're too dumb to figure it out on their own. They need you to explain it to them on Reddit that the game is actually still fine, or that they need to get good, or that they need to do some research, or that they need to try some other weapons. Oh, shut the frick up. Shut up. No one cares about that. They're having less fun. And that's all they need to know. So guess what they're going to do? They're going to go somewhere else where they're going to have more fun. They're not coming to Reddit to read your arrogant, gatekeepy diatribe. You keep circling the wagons, and before long, you're not going to have anything left. You're just going to have a bunch of weird, get-good tryhards yelling at people on Twitter, Reddit, and my comment section when I tell them what they know is true. Get good. Uh-huh. Why don't you get some players? Vote Naturalized Citizen Crusader with a $5 super chat tip says, hey, Reforge, what's up? It's my birthday. This Leo just turned 35. I'm hyped for the Hunt Showdown PS5 upgrade this Thursday since I never played it. Yo, happy birthday. Thank you for the 5 spot. Fax Lono, Super Earth has degraded our weapons as the enemies get stronger. You were right. The Prime Minister is evil. They're learning a real valuable lesson in the fact that they don't know better. Do you know who knows better? The players. Your live service game, your power fantasy, your nerfs, your buffs. You don't know better. The players know better. You can posture like you know better, and you can talk like you know better, but you don't know better. The players always know better. Now, in a PvP game, sure, that's a different discussion entirely because the players don't know better. The players could think that something is perfectly fine and balanced when it's broken. The players could think something is weak when they're just not using it properly. Sure, but we're not talking about that type of game. Tell Lono to let me review Hunt 1896 next week. I don't know if there's going to be enough draw with our core audience for that. Next question from Minch Tree. As part of the reset, do you think that they will ask or force Bungie to use one of the proprietary engines? Listen, I do know that as far as we can tell from the outside looking in, which Jez are you talking about, Zelda Heart? Are you talking about Jez Corden? If you're talking about the Jez, I have zero interest in watching anything that guy creates. I don't know who you're talking about, but yeah, I'm not going to support somebody that I don't respect. But if it's Jez Corden, I'll check it out. I don't know who made the video. There's a lot of Jez's out there. Is it the other guy Jez that does the podcast with some people? Gaming Grindhouse Jez? Is it him? Which Jez is it? Did you see the Discord message where the CEO says Helldivers 2 is supposed to be an action mill sim? That's crazy to me. An action mill sim? How did he phrase that? What's he mean? Does he literally mean that they're trying to have a hybrid between the two? You sound nuts, Lono. Canceling Marathon because one man has an opinion on a game he never played and isn't confident in said game. The game hasn't been developed. The game's been in development for years now. If you reduce my argument to what you've reduced it to, then yes, I do sound nuts. But that's not what I said. So you're shadowboxing. I never said because of one man's opinion. That's not what I said. I outlined like 6 red flags in a row. They had a playing test session. People didn't like it. They weren't that enthused. Seemingly shortly thereafter, they changed directors and changed direction of the game. The new direction of the game received negative feedback, right? They were also very quiet about the direction change as well as the director change. What other red flags do we have now? Oh, they delayed the game. Oh, now we're hearing from people at the company that they don't feel great about Marathon. Oh, yeah, Bungie just got caught having to cancel a bunch of spin-off projects because they drove their company into the red by spinning up a bunch of other projects that were not Destiny related because they're chasing trends and trying to chase alternatives to Destiny, and all those things were seen as not worth pursuing. Marathon could likely fit into that category. Oh, not only do they not feel great about Marathon, they also aren't even sure they're going to hit their next deadline. There's a general fear at the company that once that ships, people are going to leave in 2026, so they're trying to get it out the door before 2026, seemingly because they want the last amortized payout from the Bungie purchase of Sony. Look, that's 9 issues that have led me to think just cancel the dadgum thing. Oh, let's add number 10. Consistently chasing live service trends isn't working for anybody right now. You think you're built different? That's what I say to Bungie. That's like 10 reasons to cancel the game. So no, I didn't argue they should cancel the game based off of one person's opinion. And a 5 bomb comes in from Sheriff Bruce Lee. Thank you so much, sir. Yeah, and your number one source of potential people jumping into Marathon day one are people that like Bungie and Destiny, and they're already like, no, we don't want to play your game. Like, one of the reasons that Destiny had the start that it did and some of the baked-in loyalty that it did was because of Halo. That's why. That's one of the reasons Destiny did what it did in the beginning. That's one of the reasons it survived what most games wouldn't have survived. If Destiny would have been built by like a lesser known studio, it would have died. It would have died. So translate that to now. You have this very disgruntled and shrinking player base. And you're like, oh, well, Marathon, yeah, that's our ticket out. Oh, okay, hopefully. And I mean, if you're trying to get people from Tarkov didn't seem to express interest in it. And then they switch it to the hero, a class of heroes. Okay. Ginger, if other studios could create a true Destiny competitor, perhaps they found lightning in a bottle and it's just not as easy as throwing money at it. They also had a $500 million paycheck behind them. That has nothing to do with why Destiny survived, Paul. The $500 million paycheck has nothing to do with the quality of Destiny 1 and the endurance of the property. The average piece of property back then wouldn't have survived that. It wouldn't have. Nobody would have come back a year later and be like, well, let's take a look at this Taken King thing. Because there were people that were so disappointed. The Dark Below, House of Wolves. A lot of people forget the fact that like House of Wolves added a lot of quality of life improvements that then ended up making like the Taken King quite better. And everybody forgets that. Everybody actually thinks that things turned around with the Taken King. But it was actually just building upon good changes from House of Wolves. But in general, I don't think a lot of property would have survived that. I get ranty Lono today, folks. Stick around at the top of the hour. That's right. I'm getting wound up. Yeah, but back to Minstree's question. Do you think that they'll ask him to use a proprietary engine? Listen, I know that Sony likes to let their studios kind of do their thing and use their own proprietary stuff. I want to know what Tiger engine can do on a next-gen only game. Because I actually think somebody brought that up today that look, they could leave behind old gen and it might actually significantly help with all the constraints of what they've been dealing with in Destiny 2. So. Spice King, with the release of LEGO Horizon Adventures on Switch, do you think Sony will put more spin-offs on Nintendo platforms going forward to bring more awareness to their IPs? It wouldn't shock me at all if you see a LEGO God of War. Wouldn't shock me at all. You already have two great characters that would work. Kratos and Atreus. That's perfect. I mean, in the way they fight and the enemies, oh, come on. What are we even waiting for? That wouldn't shock me at all, yeah. I think they'll use Lego to do it. Because then I think there's a really, really good protection there to say, well, it's a Lego game. It's not a first-party studio. It's not a first-party piece of property. Darth Biscuit with a $5 super chat says, I bet Sony is waiting on the response to Concord at release before they pull the plug on Marathon. I actually think that's a really, really good thing to consider. Concord, its shoes are already tied together and it's already wearing a blindfold. It's only a matter of time before it falls flat on its face. I can't see Concord going anywhere. That game's DOA. I'm going to be the guy that says it along with many other people saying it. I'm not the only one saying this. I'm not trying to claim like I'm a prophet or something. That game's DOA. It is. It's pointless. Other than serving for good research for another project. I don't think that game goes anywhere. And if I'm wrong, great. A bunch of people will enjoy it and a small studio will get a bunch of great success like Arrowhead has seen, but I don't know. God of War is too violent for Lego to license it. Patrick, okay, I'm just gonna let's just examine what you just said. It's too violent for Lego to license it. Okay, hang on a minute. Hang on, just hang with me here, Patrick. there's a Lego Jurassic Park. Come on, man. When the Legos die, get eaten, or get busted apart, they just pop into little pieces. You don't have to make a God of War Lego game violent. They made a Jurassic Park. You know? You got dinosaurs eating people. What are you talking about, brother? Come on. Parasito says, has Marathon changed direction because they're worried that it will feel like Destiny? It'll likely already have the gunplay, or are they wanting the distance from Destiny possibly imploding? That doesn't seem to be what they changed. They don't do mature IP? You don't need to do mature IP, homie. It's a Lego game. What do you mean? How is Jurassic Park not mature IP? It's bloody. People get eaten. They get their arms ripped off. What are we talking about here? There's a Lego Dune. Yeah, there's a Lego Dune or Orthonopter or Orthocopter or whatever the heck it's called. What are we talking about? I think as soon as it's in Lego, there's no violence. The little pieces get broken apart. Ravenous Gojira says, I don't think you want Tarkov crowd to like Marathon. They like slow mill sims. Marathon won't be that. Also, what AAA extraction shooter is on console? Thank you. That bumps the line to 37. Okay, that's a fair made point. And I'm going to return the point with a question. How much did Call of Duty invest and continue to utilize and spend bandwidth and resources on their extraction, DMZ mode? How'd it go for them? How long did that last? I think there's an answer literally facing us right there. It's staring us right in the face. Call of Duty was like, yeah, no. This didn't work out, or maybe they didn't think it had good longevity. Maybe the engagement didn't justify future investments. Hunt's on console. He said, what AAA extraction shooters on console? Hunt's not AAA. Small studio, I believe. I'm not sure if do they have a major publisher behind them? I don't think they do. So. Jimiford says, if Destiny 3 happened, would you pursue a community clan in D3? I mean, listen, we're obviously taking everything one day at a time. We're taking everything one day at a time. I feel like I might be able to potentially make some moves to maybe get things back. Maybe they'll obviously never go back to the way that they were. But I just think, when people are like, well, time heals all wounds. I do think that's true to an extent. I do think with enough time, we'll just be able to continue to do what we're doing, move on, and potentially have a situation where, yeah, I would be playing and covering that game and, have a Discord full of people, It's just very risky. It's very risky doing anything with a piece of property with a company that's, made it very clear they'll push the big red button if they feel like it. The hope would be that they wouldn't think it would be worth their efforts, and that Sony and PlayStation would be like, yeah, we don't really do that. What are you doing? That'd be the hope. The PlayStation would be like, I don't know what that is and why you're doing it, but we're not doing that. It's not how we operate. Again, we're taking it one day at a time. I'm not under the delusion that there will ever be a live service unicorn for me in the future. I don't think it exists. I think I'm going to spend more time appealing to people with variety coverage to the point that suddenly grounding in one game will be almost impossible. And I also don't know if you'd be able to convince me to do it. We've talked about this a lot. We've been kind of transparent with you that we love the idea of finally finding a game to make a home in. I don't know if there's a handful of things working against that. I don't think the market's going to allow for a game to do that. I think the market's going to make it very difficult for games like Destiny to exist in the future. And it's going to be hard to know. I don't know I don't know if I want to place bets on a game. I like placing bets on myself. I know what I can do. I know what I can show up and do every day. I know what I can build from the rubble of a destroyed, what was an attempt at a destroyed career and a destroyed channel. I know what I'm able to do. I'd rather place bets on myself than bets on some game. Some game comes out and we're in it and it's going well and it looked like it had a bright future and looking like it's pretty promising. Yeah. I don't know if I'm going to want to place bets on that. Maybe a second channel, maybe we give it its due, but I don't know. I'd rather place bets on me. I'd rather place bets on you guys as a community than place bets on some game. You know how studios are, man. Look at how high Helldivers 2 was flying. And look at it now. Just hard to know. It's hard to know. Robert Jones says, how long was Bungie operating in the red? Yes, they needed to expand IPs, but they also needed a good cushion. I mean, we don't know. Pete Parsons didn't walk out with a spreadsheet. He likes to bring data points when it makes them look diverse and virtuous, but he didn't provide data points for how long they were operating in the red. This conversation feels full circle right now. Completely happy for you. It's been really interesting, franchise. I don't know if I ever envisioned doing what we're doing. I think I always just thought, that bridge is burned, it's destroyed, that's something we'll never really go back and cover and talk about. Morning an hour late. Good to see you, Wayne. I mean, I feel there's an element of full circle to what's been happening. Yeah. I'm not gleeful about any of it. There's something sober and almost kind of somber about a lot of it, and I just hope that good things can come out of it for me and for everybody else. I've continued to always say that that's what I want. I want people to not just do the right thing for my sake, but for their own sake. I think a lot of people could experience a lot of healing and personal growth, and they could experience a lot of closure if they would, be courageous and step out and admit things. But that's something that only they can do. Mike says, don't read this if this is too pointed, but... Oh, do you think they would just ban me from everything? I don't think so, Mike. I don't think so. No. I don't think, especially with the leaders that left, I think I'm actually safer than I've ever been. I'm safer than I've ever been. We would never take this risk, but I honestly don't think anything would happen if I just started booting up and playing and covering the game. I really don't. I think the people that pulled some of those levers and pushed some of those buttons, I think they're gone. I'm not going to do that because I don't care to, but I don't think we would need to worry about you're not going to be able to play Marathon, Lono. No, I think those people are gone, quite literally. And a 5-bomb comes in from Parasito. Now, the way this industry works, you certainly could see some of those people circle back and end up back at the company. Thank you, Paris. Just saying you had the best Destiny coverage. I appreciate that. I mean... some of those people could come back. I would hope that if they come back, there's just this renewed sense of we're not going down that road anymore. We leave that guy alone, And a 10-bomb from Detective Seeds. That is an Agent of Chaos 10-bomb as he blasts us past 52. Thank you so much, Detective Seeds. I now owe you guys 5 members. Not to reopen a long-time discussion, but they took away from you and all of us a community that you built that was a home for a good group of people. I'm happy that you never gave up. Your story is inspirational. I mean, I appreciate that, franchise. I've talked about that recently, about how, I don't think anybody really understood the ramifications of what they were doing, and even now they try to downplay it. There was a clip of one of the dudes, one of the ringleader dudes, saying that what happened wasn't because of what I was accused of. It was because of how I responded, which is just a very convenient form of like revisionist history. You know, he forgets that he told the world I needed to find a new career and that they campaigned for me to lose everything and that they painted a picture of me that wasn't true, and then they scrubbed their timelines when their claims were proven false because they were scared about the legal ramifications of having a disregard for the truth, a reckless disregard for the truth. So like they ducked, covered, and ran and have now, you know, hid everything. And then to come out now this many years later and be like, yeah, well, that only happened to him because of the way he responded. Again, that's just a very convenient revisionist form of history to act like you weren't pushing for utter destruction, because you were. And a lot of people don't understand that the reason I pushed back was because I couldn't see anything that was said about me. Everybody blocked me. It was like, well, why'd you apologize? And it's like, because I saw something very benign stated. I knew that at that point in my life, I would go to these events and act uncontrolled, and I would say inappropriate things. So I owned that, because I owned that in my therapy. I owned that in my own personal life. So I owned it. And then I realized, oh, wait, people think I'm apologizing for stuff that I didn't even see. Nobody knows that. Very few people know that. They don't understand the timeline. And a 5-bomb comes in from Iconoclast, taking us to 57. To this day, I will continue and always push for an official investigation. I will push for it to be officially looked into, because none of these people would be able to do it. I can clearly recall and recount everything that happened and how it happened, because I've only ever told the truth. And none of them can do that. None of them can keep any of the stuff straight. So I'll continue to say, like, I really wish Twitch would have done that. I wish they would have brought in a third-party company and interviewed me and interviewed everybody involved, because it would have become clear very quickly that they were in the wrong and I was not. So everybody that still hates me and everybody that still attacks me and hurls hate and harassment my way, they always run to the same thing. They run to, well, he apologized. And it's like, wouldn't you want a situation like this to be properly investigated and properly handled, because the breadth of it, the level of destruction was so insane? Like, if you're okay with that happening to a person, their livelihood being completely destroyed, potentially threat of destitution, losing my house, all those things could have happened, because of, like, if YouTube would have played ball and scrubbed me from the internet, we would have been in a very, very scary situation. I probably would have had to sell my newly bought house, you know? And so if you think that's okay because people sent tweets, then hopefully it never happens to you, because you'll feel powerless as you drown. That's why any of the stuff that's coming out about people, I always say the same thing. I'm like, I want it to be handled properly, whether it's Mr. Beast or anybody. I always say the same thing. Guys, you need to wait. You need to wait. We need to get the full story. Somebody needs to look into this. This needs to be handled properly, because I'm never going to be okay with anybody losing something or being destroyed to any degree unless we have facts, unless we have evidence, unless we have concrete things. Not made up crap that disappears after the damage is done. You know, it's convenient to destroy a person's life and then scrub the evidence. Like, that's very convenient for you. So, a 5 spot from Street Shadow. Hey, Lono, I have to say that Brap Crew, Mystic Ryan are like some of the few rational coverage people on YouTube. Just needed to say that. Well, I appreciate that. I like Brap. I'm not familiar with Mystic Ryan, but I appreciate that. Properly? You mean with pitchforks and fire? Yes. Nobody gave me my account back. Nobody's ever apologized. No. Question from Rissick. Did you see the PUBG publisher bought Tango? I did. It seems that they want to continue Hi-Fi Rush. A question from Citizen JV. How hard do you think Marathon will flop like Concord could? I mean, I'm going to continue to say this. Does the UE command still work? Oh, I have no idea. No, it doesn't. Asmongold put it perfectly. The internet has recreational outrage. People need things to be mad about and forget very quickly once they move on to the next thing. Pretty much. Also, given the group that went after you, they wouldn't have wanted an investigation to, take you offline completely. If you are telling the truth, and you're trying to expose a really bad person, you would want a proper investigation because you would want it to be definitively proven that what you're saying is true. When you clam up and you won't talk about it and you scrub things and you hide things and you change your story, it's because you're not telling the truth. It's one of the easiest things to diagnose from a distance. If you have distance from situations like this, like if you weren't in the Destiny community at the time, if you weren't a content creator who could benefit from my destruction, if you were able to remove the bias and see it for what it was, you would say, anybody telling the truth would be screaming and begging for an investigation, which is what I did. Like, the people that didn't want that to happen, the people who clammed up and refused to answer questions and wouldn't talk about it anymore, it's like, that's the behavior of a dishonest person. That's the behavior of somebody who doesn't want things handled properly because they know their claims are flimsy. They know their stories are inconsistent. That's why videos and VODs disappeared, because people messed up the timeline or they contradicted each other. But all that's fine because people didn't like me. Like, justifying that level of destruction and like that level of dishonesty and being like, it's okay because you didn't like me, I think that just speaks volumes about you. Like, you can think whatever you want about me. It's immaterial and it exists in your brain. It doesn't actually affect me or touch me. Okay? But there were people that were okay with it happening to me simply because they didn't like me. And it's like, that speaks to your character and who you are. And I think that is something for them to process and figure out in their own life and in their own journey. Why would you be so quick to celebrate the destruction of a person based off stuff you read? What if the stuff's not true? What if the stuff's been exaggerated or embellished or completely made up? Like, you're just quick to be like, yes, like, look, I got it. And it's like, okay. There are people right now that don't like you. There are people right now who hope that bad things happen to you, right? That doesn't justify you being treated poorly or lied about or, or maligned. Do you see? It's like that's something that always gets lost in these discussions because I think there's just an element of people enjoy it and people take a lot of pleasure from it. And I think a lot of that's because of where they are in their own life. And, all I can ever say is you can live a better life and grow from these situations, and you can not be so entrenched in wanting to see people destroyed and hurt, and you can live a happier life. But they choose the lower path. Yo, Odinero with a gifted member, thank you so much. Taking us to 58. I got to get Kirk on the line here. We got to get this next stream started up. Oh, I didn't schedule it. I was trying to schedule those a little bit earlier. Jesse Ritchie with a $5 super chat. I remember the old Say No days. How long I've known. That's how long I've known about you. Keep on keeping on. Thank you, Jesse. I appreciate that very, very much. Listen, if you guys hate what happened and you want this to continue to go on, the best thing you can do is hit subscribe, hit the like button, hit the bell button. The real thing we're looking for right now is we really want to see that member base grow. So jump in and pick Member Plus. Pick Member Plus. It helps us do what we do, right? We don't even have a 50,000 sub channel. This is a channel that's about to hit 40,000 subscribers, and I'm still able to do this full time because of you, right? And we can continue to be that force for good and be that force for what you believe in and good content and a good community. And the best way for us to do that is growing that member base. I mean that. That's how we were able to do this. I'm not out here getting sponsorships. I'm not out here getting deals, right? My sponsorships are you. My sponsorships are you. All right? Let me get Kirk on the line, and then let me schedule. I'm going to close Steam and all this other stuff so we don't have any hiccups on the connection. Okay. All right, I need to mute the browser. There's not a lot to show, honestly. There's just that one trailer. We're gonna have to probably do they have like vid docs and stuff? They do have something else. They have 2 things on their channel. All right, let me schedule this. All right, and this is basically, I'm going to be arguing with Kirk about why I think they should cancel Marathon. Does it even have its own category yet? It's got its old category, it looks like. So I'm going to be arguing cancel it. Kirk doesn't have like the strongest opinion on this topic. He may take on the role more as like interviewer, like kind of asking me to flesh out my position. You know, and we may get into like other things that are tangentially related. I mean, obviously, you know, Bungie and how they've handled things and their you know, the studio itself and Destiny and everything else will be part of this conversation. This is kind of an ongoing conversation for what we've already talked about. No, I do not play Destiny. They banned me. They banned me in February of 2021. I have not played the game since. I didn't try to ban evade. I didn't try to create new accounts. I only ever appealed the ban, and all they ever did was close the tickets. Now, they didn't actually close the ticket. They said due to the nature of your ban, it cannot be appealed. And that's because whoever looked at it probably didn't know what was going on. And they were like, this is a dev ban. I was dev banned on Steam and never given an explanation. I never broke their TOS. I never did anything in their game that was worthy of a ban. You know. All I ever did was draw attention to an investigation that was unearthing evidence that they were involved in what happened to me. That's all I ever did. Didn't target anybody. I didn't go after anybody. That's all said by people that, you know, continue to this day to not speak truthfully about me. And thank you guys for hanging and waiting for the next segment. Still so many of you here. Do a quick second and double check that you have pressed the like button. We only need 30 more likes to hit 400. That would be so helpful to this video later on. These videos are still available once we're not live, and a lot of people come back through and watch them as of VOD. There he is. Hello, sir.
Hello. Yeah, like, where it needs to be and stuff. Ugh, yeah, I don't like that framing right now. Yeah. I'm good with like a tight hour today.
Okay.
For what we talked about. I mean, you can go longer if you want to, but just like wrap it up whenever you want to. Just because in particular, like this one will probably be better if it's tighter.
No, yeah, and that's great. Yeah, Mondays and Tuesdays now. I'm up against it. Let's come over here. Let's change this.
Am I well lit enough?
I think this is probably better lighting than typical because you're not. I feel like sometimes your lighting's a little too bright.
Okay.
So yeah, I think it's fine. Where is our? Oh, there we go. What's new video games? There we go.
Yeah, might have some content coming down the line this week. We'll have to see.
Oh wow, content?
Shut up.
Don't make any promises you can't keep, sir.
I mean, I had to go see that amazing Borderlands movie last week.
Hey, just be sure to don't tweet at Randy Pitchford about it. You'll get that swift block. Wait, that was the wrong image. Hang on. Creature made me a new image for today.
You might want some Valorant footage too, since Ziegler is the Valorant guy. But
I was gonna grab Destiny, you know. I was gonna grab
smorgasbord, a little Concord in there.
Little bit of everything.
But yeah, this week is Madden week, so I'm planning on jumping in that goes live at 4 p.m. Good old sports balls.
All right, guys, you can talk to Kirk. I'll be back in a moment. Hey, give me a sentence. You might be a little quiet. Let me see.
Yeah, probably. I'll probably be up here when we're talking.
Okay.
That helps.
All right. Talk to Kirk, chat. I'll be back in a moment. We'll start the brand new stream. Make sure you're smashing like and doing all the things, and then we'll be doing the show in just a moment. A brand new show about why they should cancel Marathon.
Mike shaved. 4 out of 10 is rough. Why'd I do what? Is it still too high, Hot Robot? Do we feel like it's too high? I think it's in the right spot. Do this button, hold on. Hey, y'all got Lono riled up this morning. How was the movie? I thought it was okay. I didn't think good is not a word that I would use to describe it, but I thought it was okay. I thought it was authentically Borderlands vibes or like Borderlands atmosphere, but the characters obviously weren't authentic. Subsidiary, Sir Gabby. 4 out of 10 is generous, dude. I don't know. This Madden looks like better. I gave last year's a 6 out of 10. I feel like this one's gonna be a 7 out of 10. I do think they're in too deep. I think they probably need to release it, but Killer reviews like it's good. RJ, Alien Romulus is good. Yeah, it does. Y'all gotta convince them to let me do a hunt review on Monday. I want to do a hunt review on Monday. I have 250 hours in Hunt Showdown. I'm the guy to review Hunt Showdown 1896. And we're talking about extraction shooters and how like everybody's chasing that trend. There's one on the console market right now. That's pretty good. And they're releasing a new game. I have not played Cult of the Lamb. I think that's somewhat true that players don't know what they want until they get it, but the counterpoint to that would be that devs don't know what players want either. I went to Deadpool again and to Borderlands. Deadpool second watch, not as good, I will say. I've seen a lot of people in chat react positively to me saying I want to cover Hunt. It's like a sequel upgrade hybrid. It's like they're doing a PS5 upgrade, but then they are making drastic overhauls to the game enough so that they want to give it a new title. They took the old game off the store completely. So I'm excited to see like what it is exactly. It's in a completely new engine. Like they basically remade it. So it's like, is it a new game? Kinda. I would rather just run with it and call it a new game. Skull and Blows. Kirk, you'll be happy I bought Skull and Bones Deluxe for $10. Any tips? Yeah, try to get as many of the manufacturing plants as possible. That'll help, and then you can get better gear for your ship. How was Borderlands? I thought it was okay. I would not use the word good to describe it, but I thought it was fine. People saying it's the worst like video game movie ever made, or being a little hyperbolic, I think. Is Hunt a new time for good players? It depends on what type of new player you are. If you have experience with PvP shooters, I would say yeah. If you don't, probably not. It's a little bit obtuse. Like it's not like inexperienced gamer friendly, I would say. But then also like I don't like PvP shooters and I'm not like super good at them, and then I really like Hunt. I think you have to kind of fall in love with the premise. Space Marines in September. Lono and I both think Space Marine looks good, but they keep coming out with like kind of concerning types of news and stuff about the beta being canceled and difficulties that they're having. So maybe a delay until like late November, early December would help them. It's on the new Cry engine, yeah.
Guys, I think I'm going to do a cold start. We typically don't do cold starts with these, but the opening of all these videos I've been doing with Mike and Kirk lately, they are terrible because
they get chopped off.
Yeah, I'm like mid-sentence. I used to be able to time it. I can't time it anymore. I think YouTube has made some changes. So I'm actually going to spam a link, and then I'm going to end stream and redirect you. You guys will go over there. You'll wait like 1 minute, and then we'll start. I don't like doing it this way, but I can't stand how these episodes sounds now. It's like, and all of a sudden I'm like in the middle of a sentence. It sounds terrible. So click the link in chat, head over, smash the like button, and we'll see you guys over there. All right, I'm going to end the stream here in just a second, and we'll see you.
So you mean I get a whole minute just to talk very personally, privately, and deeply with you?